Basically, like most of my other videos, I'm going to do another one about infectious agents. And this one, I kind of like looked through my book a little bit, and I saw a chapter on bacteriophages, which are basically what most people think about when they think about viruses. So I decided to do a video on bacteriophages. So, in the 20th century, most of the scientists did not know much about viruses. Now, there were some things that we did know about viruses, one of which is that they make us sick, and they use cells to multiply themselves. But other than that, that was about it, and that was most of our knowledge. Now, in 1915, this man named Frederick Twort accidentally went into the field of viruses because he was working with vaccines for smallpox, and he was trying to make it he was trying to improve on the process. So if you don't know how vaccines work, and actually if you know, the word vaccine for any kind just came from the cure for smallpox, vaccina, because one cousin of smallpox is called vaccina, and that's how they made the cure. Basically, what people do is they give your body a dead version of whatever bacteria that they want to get rid of. Then they'll learn how to fight them. They'll make antibiotics for them. So the next time when the actual virus comes, it doesn't actually hurt that much. It's not as bad. So yeah. Basically, all he wanted to do was make the process just a little bit faster. So what he did to make this process faster, he decided, maybe what if I grew them myself? He grew the smallpox bacteria by himself, and sadly, he did not get the expected value he wanted, because he wanted to get more and more smallpoxes to work with in order to, make vaccines faster. But what he did notice was that in his petri dish that he was working with, there was several clear holes in them. And when he took a closer look inside, he noticed that all those clear holes were like the translucent corpses of the smallpox bacteria. But and this was after putting some mixing a little bit of and after taking some samples of the small holes and putting them into other colonies that also started killing the other ones. But what's weird was that he tried it on other kinds of bacteria, but for some reason they weren't dying, only specifically smallpox. So he came up with three hypotheses. It was either the bizarre life cycle of the bacteria, maybe they kill themselves or something like that, or maybe the bacteria, they were making enzymes that actually kill themselves, or, which was the very hardest to believe, obviously, because that's how every drama goes, the right answer, the viruses that kills the virus. I wrote that wrong. Viruses that kill the bacteria. I don't know why I wrote that. I'm very sorry. But yeah, viruses that kill the bacteria. Basically, he said, oh, that's impossible. Well, lucky for him, in 1917, this other guy named Felix Derel, he was a Canadian scientist, and basically what he was trying to do is he was working in the war with French soldiers who were fighting, were getting diarrhea and stuff, and they were dying of dysentery, and this was caused by these little bacteria called Shigella. Now, he was trying to cure these soldiers from the Shigella. So what he did is he had to go through all the diarrhea and filter out all the bacteria. And he noticed, after mixing a little bit, doing very much the same thing as what same thing as doing the same thing as Twort did, he noticed that there were small holes in his petri dish from it. And no, this was also after he did the same thing. He tried making his bacteria grow, and he decided that these holes were actually viruses that were killing off the bacteria. And I mean, this was believable for him because like he's trying to get rid of these bacteria, and of course he's going to be so happy if he figures out that there's something that's actually killing them. So it was a little bit more believable for him to believe that number 3, viruses that kill a bacteria, would actually happen. And thus he dubbed these as bacteriophages, basically eaters of bacteria. Now note, they don't really eat them, but what they do is exactly the same thing as what normal viruses do to cells. They either inject their DNA into the bacteria, and then the bacteria makes more of them, and then soon they burst out with a lot of viruses. Basically, they're just trying to make themselves more. And Harel did test these out on a lot of soldiers, and they did start feeling better, so they weren't actually on the toilet anymore. And it was actually working, and he was doing more and more. And this is how he figured out that he also figured out the same solution, that there are different kinds of bacteriophages for different kinds of bacteria. For example, one for Shigella won't attack E. coli, for example. It's basically the same thing as what Twort did, as he discovered that there are, even though it did not work for the other ones. But just because he was right, a lot of other scientists did not believe it. Like, for example, this one French scientist who became his main critic, his name was Jules Bordet, also a French guy. And he basically said that this is not true because of the following. Well, first he decided to work with E. coli, not Shigella, which still should work because E. coli is a bacteria. And basically, he used these E. coli, and he did the same thing. He grew them and kind of mixed up the solutions. Noticed that some of them were dying. Noticed that there were holes in his petri dish, which were the corpses of it. But then he decided, wait a second, why don't I put the same viruses that I've noticed, or so-called viruses, back into the original batch, not mixing it up anywhere. Now, what happened here is nothing actually happened. Nothing happened, so he decided, okay, then the viruses actually don't exist because I didn't get the same solution as you did. But what he did not know, and for you to know right now, if the virus comes from the said bacteria batch colony, then they are actually immune to it. It won't actually do anything because it's just like coming back to itself. So that's what you have to notice. It has to be made from a certain batch of it. Certain species are separated, but it has to be the same colony. So like you can have 2 different E. coli colonies, and they will adapt differently, and that's why some of them work and some of them don't. So yeah, that's the cool thing about bacteriophages. And they were actually used for medicine until antibiotics started showing up. And scientists really liked this better because antibiotics were not alive, bacteriophages were, and it just wasn't, it just didn't set well for a lot of people, knowing that there's something alive that's curing you inside, and it's like a virus, and viruses are supposed to make us sick, is what we know before. So yeah, but yeah, that was basically about it. That's how that's how we started knowing a lot more about viruses, and well, in particular bacteriophages, and knowing that their existence. So yeah, now you kind of know, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.